Today on All Sports Central, we're going over an NFL playoff game preview over the wild card round matchup between the Minnesota Vikings and the New Orleans Saints. Now, this is going to be a pretty interesting matchup as it is a rematch of that one game in 2017 in the divisional round where the Minnesota Vikings pulled off that huge miracle against the Saints. I'm sure we all remember that. But this should be an interesting matchup here. This time it's in New Orleans. Previous game for both these teams, Minnesota lost to Chicago surprisingly 19-21, and the Saints beat up Carolina 42-10. And obviously, the Saints were much more motivated in that game. That is a really impressive performance there by the Saints. As for the Vikings, I'm sure there was a little bit of unmotivation in that Week 17 since they already had the 6th seed locked up. So that game isn't all that concerning to me. But some key stats from this game for Minnesota: Boone, the running back, 17 attempts, 148 yards, and 1 touchdown. And of course, Dalvin Cook was out of that game. He looks to be back in this one, so that's something that the Saints are going to have to watch out for. For New Orleans, Drew Brees, obviously 19 for 30, 253 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And Brees has been looking very, very good towards the end of the season. Last year, of course, we could kind of see he was starting to get, his arms started to look a little bit tired towards the end of the season. He just wasn't playing like his actual self. But nonetheless, this year he's playing very, very well, and he's soaring into this game. This game's going to be on Sunday, January 5th, 1:05 p.m. Eastern in New Orleans, Louisiana. Spread currently says Saints by 7.5. ESPN FPI. They are also saying the Saints 63%. And Vegas is expecting a blowout here, 32-13. Here's your previous 5 games for both these teams. Minnesota, they lost to Chicago. They also had a tough loss to the Packers at home. That was their first home loss of the season. They lost that game 10-23. They beat the Chargers big time, 39-10. And looking at how badly they beat the Chargers, I was thinking, after December 15th, this Minnesota Vikings team could very well go on and win the division, and they could be a Super Bowl watch for. But nonetheless, those last 2 games haven't been very convincing for Minnesota. They beat the Lions by 13, 20-7 as well, and then they had a tough loss to the Seahawks by a touchdown on December 2nd, 30-37. As for the Saints, they've done really, really well in this December month. They beat the Panthers big time, beat the Titans, who've been playing really well lately with Ryan Tannehill. They look good there. They beat up the Colts, another team that's not a big blowover, 34-7. And then they had a loss to the Niners, which easily could have been a win. If a couple of mistakes hadn't happened, but they lost that game nonetheless, 46-48. And then for the Falcons, they won against them on Thanksgiving, 26-18. Here's some key points for this game. Saints are red hot heading into the playoffs, no doubt about it. Last year we were thinking the same thing. But nonetheless, I think the Saints have got a really, really genuinely good shot at making the Super Bowl this year. And if you want to look at my official NFL playoff predictions, I've posted a video a couple days of that, so you can check that out as well. The Vikings have lost 3 of the last 5, which is a little bit concerning. But nonetheless, that Bears loss, I'm not really going to count that because they already had the 6th seed blocked up. But the Vikings haven't really played well in big games. That's another thing that's a little bit concerning coming into this one. Most of their big games they played, like to the Seahawks, the Packers, those are 2 examples. They have not played very well on those. But nonetheless, they absolutely blow out the Chargers, and they play pretty well against weaker teams. They're going to have to switch that here in this game. They're going to have to play very well if they're going to win it here in New Orleans. The Brees-Thomas duo is going to be very difficult to stop, as we all already know. Michael Thomas is probably, actually very well, the best wide receiver currently in the league. The Vikings are going to need to stop him if they're going to win. And for Drew Brees, he's doing really well too as well. And he's obviously going to be very, very motivated, knowing that Brees' time is starting to end. He's already 40, so just so you know. But Dalvin Cook should be back in this game too. So the Vikings have got a very key player back up in this game. How would each team win? I'd have to say if the Saints come out early and they get up good 2-3 touchdown lead, I think the Saints pretty well have this one locked up. But I think if the Vikings can just stick with New Orleans, don't let them get away from you. Also, you need to stop Brees and Thomas. If you can put pressure on Drew Brees, obviously, that would be huge. And that'd be a great way for the Minnesota Vikings to win and proceed into the divisional round. But here's my prediction. I think the Saints are going to stop that from happening. Your halftime score is going to be 14-3. Saints lead by 11. And your final score, the Saints win pretty easily, 28-17. Overall, they win it by over a touchdown. I think the Saints control this game for the most part, even from the start. The Saints are looking very, very good right now. Looking how they've beaten the Panthers and the Titans and several other teams this season. The Saints honestly have just as good of a chance as the 49ers do to win the Super Bowl this year. No doubt about that. But nonetheless, let me know your thoughts on this game in the comments below. If you think the Vikings will win, be sure to let me know. Obviously, I mean, I think there's a great chance the Vikings win, but also we got to remember New Orleans' home advantage is absolutely stellar. I mean, it is very, very tough to win in New Orleans, and we already know that. So, yeah, with all that being said, I think the Saints win this one 20-17. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this game. Let me know your score predictions as well. And also, let me know who you think is going to win the Super Bowl. Another really interesting thing. But yeah, thank you all for watching, though, once again. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central.